one of the unique aspects of our indexes that we've come together and published is that we capture both a index for consumer sentiment in general, how they feel about the overall economy, and then technology specifically, so how consumers specifically feel about purchasing technology. For example, over the last 19 months, as the economy has deteriorated, we've heard a lot of commentary about sentiment being negative, consumers feeling pessimistic about the economy. What we can now do is look at, well, does that carry over to how they feel about technology? Do they also feel pessimistic and uncertain about technology spending, or is technology somehow unique? Is it holding up better than the overall economy?
We first tested it out about 3 years ago or 3 years ago with the CNET audience prior to going out to the U.S. population, because we wanted to see what we found within the data. So we are going to revisit and look at kind of the tech audience versus the overall U.S. population. But right now, this is just an amazing index to be looking at for the overall trends in the economy.
How do you think this study will complement the University of Michigan study in the future, and how has that study already been used?
So definitely, as you mentioned, it complements the University of Michigan index by providing a tech element that hasn't previously been available. We also believe that our indexes rely on a different methodology that has been thoroughly reviewed and tested within the academic literature. So they have tested some of the similar questions on audiences and found that they have very strong statistical properties and statistical characteristics that do perhaps a better job of capturing how consumers really feel about the economy. So for example, as opposed to asking about broad factors like business conditions, as the University of Michigan does, we ask about specific factors that are relevant to the individual taking the survey. Things like, will you be financially better off than you are now? Will you spend more than you do now? Will you, what's the percent chance that you'll lose your job? So focusing on things that we feel individuals have a better sense of than broad factors like business conditions. One of the things we've seen from our research is that consumers, if you take a look at the stimulus checks, the tax rebate checks that consumers received, they plan to spend some of that and ultimately have spent some of that money on technology. Showing up at the top of their wish list were things like computers, televisions, and wireless phones. So we really see a blurring of what's a luxury and what's a necessity. A lot of these categories now have become necessities for consumers, things like computers, wireless phones, and televisions. And that's exactly what we're seeing hold up quite well despite some of the economic uncertainty and the economic malaise that we're seeing.